Tim Walz wants to be a heartbeat away from Commander-in-Chief, but Tim Walz has lied about his military record for years.
He's used the rank that he never achieved in order to advance his political career.
Walz lied repeatedly about his rank.
Retired Command Sergeant Major.
Retired Command Sergeant Major.
Command Sergeant Major.
Retired Command Sergeant Major.
Walz lied about being in combat.
Can make sure that those weapons of war that I carried in war,
Walz dodged deployment by retiring when he knew his National Guard unit was going to Iraq.
Everybody knew they were going to train and go to Iraq. The warning order basically stated it, and too much later after he knew it, that's when he retired.
Walz disparaged Minnesota National Guard soldiers.
Mayor said, I request the National Guard. We're going to have massively trained troops. No, you're going to have 19-year-olds who are cooks.
That same Minnesota National Guard that he disparaged, unlike Walz, served heroically in Iraq and Afghanistan. Tim Walz is not fit to be anywhere near the office of Commander-in-Chief. Tim Walz is guilty of stolen valor.
He abandoned us, I mean, what the hell kind of leader does that?
All right, guys, so we got to talk about the presumptive Democrat Party presidential nominee, Kamala Harris, and her vice presidential pick, Tim Walz, who have been caught lying once again. And we got to talk about Kamala Harris first, okay? Because Kamala Harris put out a very deceiving political ad in which she tries to pretend like she was tough on the border. Now, I already did a video probably a couple days ago kind of fact-checking this ad. Basically, the whole ad is not true, right? It's just false, okay? Kamala Harris hasn't really had any experience at all as a prosecutor dealing with the border in any meaningful way. And when she was border czar, or I mean, I guess she still is. I mean, I don't know if they announced that she wasn't border czar anymore, but as border czar of the United States of America right now, the border is in an absolute state of disaster, okay? So her track record on the border as Attorney General is basically non-existent. And as Vice President, again, it's just bad, right? It's really bad, so bad that a sheriff came out and recently called out Kamala Harris for using his image and likeness in this false ad to try to imply that this sheriff and his team backs Kamala Harris or supports Kamala Harris. And the sheriff has went to Fox News to make it clear, no, in no shape or form whatsoever do I support Kamala Harris.
She took on drug cartels and jailed gang members for smuggling weapons and drugs across the border.
So Kamala Harris trying to flip the script on her border record. And one sheriff that is in that ad is outraged as she uses his image to do so. Tulare County, California Sheriff Mike Boudreaux joins us now. So, Sheriff, when you saw that ad and that she was representing you as an endorsement, what was your reaction?
Well, I can tell you here in California, we're ready for someone that's going to support law enforcement. Kamala Harris and law enforcement in California, we're very familiar with her and how she has done over the course of years as a senator and as a prosecutor and as the Attorney General. And I can tell you that this ad is deceiving, to say the least. I remember this particular case where we did a drug cartel or a drug trafficking organization where we worked with DEA. And the issue was that in this particular situation, she showed up for a soundbite. She didn't shake anyone's hands, and she quickly left the briefing room. So for me in law enforcement to see my face and image along with my law enforcement counterparts being represented as standing alongside Kamala Harris was truly disheartening. We do not support Kamala Harris. She has a history of not supporting law enforcement. And I just wanted to come out and say that for me in Tulare County, the sheriff of Tulare County, looking out for victims, looking for someone who's going to support criminal justice and law enforcement, that is best represented by Donald Trump and not Kamala Harris.
Yeah, so I'm glad that the sheriff came out and set the record straight on Kamala Harris in this ad, and this idea that somehow, some way, Kamala Harris is tough on crime, right? That she's tough on the border, tough on, whatever, prosecutor. She's not, okay? And this sheriff has worked with her personally, and he's saying, no, that's not her, right? She does not support law enforcement. If you want to vote for better law enforcement in this country, then you probably should support Trump, right? And I love the fact that he came out and he set the record straight as he should. And it's really a damn shame that he has to do this because this is what the media should be doing, right? The media should be questioning Kamala Harris's record and setting the record straight with the American people, okay? But we do have Tim Walz, who is on the Democrat Party ticket. He is coming out and trying to set the record straight on the accusations of stolen valor against him that really is plaguing the Kamala Harris campaign. Don't let the mainstream liberal media fool you. This is a big deal. It is a huge deal because essentially there's no doubt in my mind that this guy most definitely lied about his service, embellished his service in order to advance his political career, which is disrespectful to people who actually did serve in combat, which Tim Walz did not, although he strongly implied that he did. And he also lied about his rank that he retired at for political gain. And he is struggling to deal with this. And the reason why you know he's struggling to deal with it, because he's lashing out against the backlash that he is receiving for getting caught lying about his military record and career. Take a look.
These guys are even attacking me for my record of service. And I just want to say, I'm proud to serve my country, and I always will be. With my dad's encouragement, a guy who served in the Army during the Korean War, I signed up for the Army National Guard 2 days after my 17th birthday. I served for the next 24 years for the same reason all my brothers and sisters in uniform do. We love this country. Then in 2005, I felt the call of duty again, this time of being service to my country in the halls of Congress. My students inspired me to run for that office, and I was proud to make it to Washington. I was a member of the Veterans Affairs Committee and a champion of our men and women in uniform. I'm going to say it again as clearly as I can. I am damn proud of my service to this country. And I firmly believe you should never denigrate another person's service record. To anyone brave enough to put on that uniform for our great country, including my opponent, I just have a few simple words. Thank you for your service and sacrifice.
Yeah, so this guy is trying to take the fake high road here, not by admitting the truth and coming out and saying, hey, you know what? I'm sorry, right? I lied about my military service. Okay, I didn't tell the truth. I did it for political gain. Okay, I'm sorry. No. Instead of doing that, he's trying to pretend as if, again, he's above it all by thanking J.D. Vance for his military service, while at the same time basically trying to accuse the people who are criticizing him for lying about his service as denigrating his military service or attacking him for being in the military, right? Because, you know, it's just funny. They're trying to say low-key that, well, if you served in the military, you should receive no criticisms whatsoever, even from fellow veterans, about your service. Doesn't matter if you lied about it, right? Doesn't matter if you didn't actually achieve the rank that you claimed that you achieved. Doesn't matter if you lied about going into combat. Just because you served, you should never be criticized whatsoever for anything having to do with your service. Now, this is pretty ridiculous, right? To anybody who's actually listening to what this dude is saying, it's extremely ridiculous to say that as a veteran, you can never be criticized for what you did as a part of your service to the country, even if you lied about it. It just doesn't make sense, okay? So J.D. Vance responds in a way that I think was probably the best way that J.D. Vance could respond by saying, hi, Tim, I thank you for your service, but you shouldn't have lied about it. You shouldn't have said you went to war when you did it, nor should you have said that you didn't know your unit was going to Iraq. Happy to discuss more in a debate. Yeah, so J.D. Vance is basically saying, listen, look, I'm thankful for your service as well, too. But that doesn't change the fact that you lied, okay? You can try to get around it and deflect with straw mans, trying to pretend that people are criticizing you for serving when that's just simply not the case. But again, the facts are the facts, okay? We have footage, video footage of this guy lying about his rank, lying about going into war, strongly implying that he actually fought. Again, the guy is pretending like he didn't know that his unit was going to Iraq when he decided to declare that he was running for Congress. I mean, just lies all around, okay? And again, it's a damn shame that he's not actually answering any questions from the media on this, right? But you know that he's struggling with it because he's feeling the need to address it, right? He's feeling the heat, okay? In order to try to take the heat off of him, basically he's trying to guilt trip anybody that criticizes him as, well, you're just criticizing me because I served, when that's clearly not the case. I cannot wait until JD debates Tim Walz, okay? JD is going to tear this man up, okay? There's no doubt in my mind. That's the debate that I'm actually most excited about, right? JD Vance versus Tim Walz. So with that being said, Tim Walz lying about his military service is not the only substantive criticism of Tim Walz. There's also the criticism of Tim Walz cowering in a bunker as Minneapolis burns thanks to BLM rioters and people lose their livelihoods and their property and their businesses. And again, this guy basically sat back and said, hey, it's fine to let them tear up Minneapolis and to cause chaos and destruction.
Police officers testified at the Minnesota Senate today. The officers are all board members for the Minneapolis Police Federation. And as Esme Murphy reports, they offered up a scathing critique of government and police leaders during the riots following George Floyd's death.
That's not what we stand for.
Her voice shaking, Minneapolis Police Sergeant Anna Hedberg says during the riots, officers were abandoned by state, city, and department leaders.
To watch them go through that was so heartbreaking. To know that they could have died because we were not allowed to respond the way that we have been trained to respond.
During the riots, the officers were told they could not wear protective frog suits, but were still hit and injured with bottles, cement, and more. Sergeant Hedberg blamed state, city, and department leaders for the abandonment of the 3rd Precinct.
I heard the governor say, give it up. It wasn't directly to me, it was through a phone call. How the governor says, give up the precinct. I mean, that's demoralizing for this whole state.
And the 3 described a demoralized police force with dozens of officers planning to retire or quit.
I believe I speak for every Minneapolis cop when I tell you that I've never been more publicly humiliated.
They also described a city out of control.
The crime is rampant in Minneapolis right now.
You also have Kevin O'Leary coming out here and trashing Tim Walz for how he ran the state of Minnesota from an economic perspective, because just like all of these Democrats, they believe in government funded job creation as good, right? And they try to tout these government jobs as real jobs, except they're not actually real jobs. And when you look at the private sector is struggling, which explains why so many people have evacuated Minnesota under Tim Walz's leadership.
Latest reading I saw was almost 60% of Americans are invested in the market, whether it's a pension, a 401k, and yet the Democrat VP nominee Tim Walz has zero money in investments. What do you make of someone trying to run the country with zero investment acumen?
I didn't know anything about the VP candidate, Tim, and so I did some digging last week. I got the data last Friday. He is not a good manager. If you look at his stewardship of his state, Minnesota, it's been not good. And I'll tell you how I measure it. Look, and people say, oh, you're partisan. No, I'm not. I'm looking at the track record of an individual who came into a state and wiped out job creation. He wiped out job creation in professional, in manufacturing, in accounting, in every subcategory you look at. Those jobs moved to South Dakota and North Dakota. The South Dakota job rate right now is 4 times that of Minnesota. Minnesota only creates jobs in services that are funded by the government, healthcare and social services. Every other sector is in decline. He's also added a surcharge of 1%, 100 basis points, on top of 9.8% taxes on individuals that are retiring. And of course they're leaving the state in droves. And he's the best governor for Texas, for Florida, for North and South Dakota, but not for Minnesota.
And that's exactly right. That's where they all went, Kevin.
And let's not forget that this guy not only was responsible for businesses burning down during the BLM riots in Minneapolis as he cowered, this also was the same guy that was a tyrant during the COVID lockdowns, where he set up a snitch line for neighbors to rat out their fellow neighbors for breaking his draconian COVID pandemic lockdown rules, okay? And if you broke the rules, they would throw you in jail, okay? This person was responsible for throwing people in jail simply because they wanted to save their small business.
When COVID happened, and in the state of Minnesota, my business was located in the state of Minnesota, southern Minnesota. It was a lovely wine and coffee bistro, and it had been in operation for going on 8 years by the time that my business was shut down and destroyed. And when I say it was destroyed, I'm speaking of the being shuttered and not being able to survive that because of what Governor Tim Walz and Attorney General Keith Ellison did to me and to my business, as well as our employees. And so what happened is with the first shutdown, we didn't really know what to do, what was going on, and we did comply. And I hate to say that, looking back at everything I've stood for, but we did comply because we didn't know what else to do. He never fully opened up the state. To point this out, who did he shut down? Governor Walz shut down only some of the businesses. The essential businesses got to stay open. So I guess that means that we were a non-essential business, but so he shut down bars, restaurants, gyms, dance studios, hair salons, etc. Who did he not shut down? Who were the essential business owners? That would have been your big box stores, with hundreds and hundreds of people coming to visit through their doors a day, mingling and being close. He did not shut down liquor stores. He did not shut down strip clubs. So think about the contrast there. He shut down a lot of the mom and pop shops, those folks that were just trying to make a living and provide a great product and a great service. In contrast, he allowed big box stores, et cetera, to stay open. Really incredible, an incredible use of tyranny against the people. So we opened up, I can't tell you for sure how long we were open, but immediately within 24 to 48 hours, the state came down on us with a vengeance. They attacked me, a woman, small business owner, as well as other small business owners in the state of Minnesota. They came down, they sent the health department down, they sent everything they could against us. They employed all of their resources against we the people. I went to court. I was found guilty. Was precipitated and put on me by the, you got to go all the way to the top. That again, that'd be Tim Walz and Attorney General Keith Ellison. I was given sentenced to 90 days, which was the max sentencing. And I was also fined $1,000, which was the max fine for this supposed thing that I did, where I was standing on my rights and totally protected by the Constitution of the United States of America. But when you have rogue judges, rogue government, attorney general, et cetera, they're all in lockstep with each other, it doesn't go very well for the people. And this is what we need to be standing against. And this is the story that America needs to know. This is the story that America needs to hear, that Tim Walz is not some cuddly, joyful coach like all the things that the MSMs are calling him, or some of the things that they're calling him. That is not who this man is. This man would like to take your rights away. He will take your rights away, because what happened to me could have happened to anybody. What happened to me will happen to you if we don't get things turned around in our country.
Facts. And that is what's important, right? That is the most important thing that people got to understand. This Kamala Harris, Tim Walz ticket represents a move towards full-blown authoritarianism, right? I mean, these people do not believe in free speech. They do not believe in individual rights and freedoms, okay? And again, the problem with Tim Walz is that he presents himself, again, as some type of cuddly, folksy guy, right? That the media loves, by the way. I mean, they are absolutely just fawning over this.
Things he has done that is getting him criticism. The Trump campaign is attacking Governor Walz as, quote, tampon Tim, which drives me crazy because it is making fun of something very serious and very caring that he has done for Minnesota students. Talk about this.
Well, first and foremost, Tim Walz is a dad, and that is big dad energy, making sure that folks who need access to hygiene products have them. We don't charge people to use toilet paper right at their schools. This is a necessity for people, and I think it just shows like the kindness and the goodness in him. And I also think folks are telling on themselves, right, when they don't see why this is a necessity. You're telling me you've never had to use a wad of toilet paper and like try to figure it out, or that you haven't had resources to pay for tampons or for pads. This is a real issue, and it just shows how disconnected they are from the lives of real people across the country. I think it's a huge victory, and he should wear that moniker proudly.
Tim Walz has big dad energy for putting tampons in boys' bathrooms, right? He's so connected with the people, okay? This is what they're saying, right? But the reality is that there's nothing cute, cuddly, folksy, or any other things that these people say about Tim Walz. This guy is a tyrant. He's the worst type of tyrant because he will lie to your face, okay? He will try to appear as if he's a harmless individual, but at the same time, this guy will stomp on the Constitution in a heartbeat in order to take away your rights and freedoms if you do not agree with the Democrat Party and their narrative. That's exactly the type of ticket, that is the exact type of Trojan horse that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are bringing to this country, and people need to wake up and realize this sooner rather than later. So, hey, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.